Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So today we will be talking about Killfeed reading, as you can see in the top left corner. Killfeed reading is of course a very straightforward task. It's a list in the top right, who died, who killed who. But there are of course many nuances to it. Like, main thing is you don't only need to understand what is dying and when, but also what it means for you. Like, if you cannot react to the information, then the information is useless. So Overwatch 2 is played 5 on 5. Of course, the main incentive of reading Killfeed is to understand what is the current status of the Killfeed. Are both teams 5 versus 5 fully alive, or is one team down one teammate? And depending on your current state of the game, that depends on what you are going to do next. So now we are both equally on attack, which means if one of my teammates dies early, we will most likely lose the upcoming team fight, which means I might want to engage harder and risk dying a lot more than I would usually. The reason is because if I just play normally, I will lose the upcoming team fight. On the other way around, if the enemy dies first, so now my teammate died, we are 5 and 4. So now I want to get more aggressive, but if my teammate dies, I actually want to play more safe with my team, because we will automatically win if we don't do anything stupid and the enemies don't make a play. And the enemies forcing enemies to make a play, of course, forcing them to make bigger mistakes. Ignore the screaming in the background. And this, if you go aggressive or more defensive, depends on two things. One thing is, are you the attacker or defender? And this is in this instance defined as for which team is a clock ticking. If the enemies have the point, if we just go all AFK, the enemies will win, which means I am now attacking and the enemies are defending. Because they have the point. That's the point, haha. Like on 2CP maps, it's more straightforward, because the attacker and defender is clearly defined. But for example, on payload maps it's the same. The team in control of the payload is basically usually the defending team. Because the other team wants to either stop the payload or get the defenders from the payload to start to get it rolling. And this is the first level of Killfeed reading. Just understand, is it 5 and 5, 5 and 4, 4 and 4, 5 and 3. Like, if the teamfight is basically lost to 5 and 3, then even a good play will not make you come back. So even using ultimates will not make you win the teamfight anymore. Which means actually you can either die very fast, jump off the map, die on the payload, force enemies to kill you fast, don't use heals, just die fast, or go straight back to your spawn. Don't risk dying to Hook, don't risk dying to Widow, just go back to your spawn. If you're down to members, 5 and 3, you will not win anymore this teamfight. That's the first stage of Killfeed reading. The second stage is of course understanding which role died. So this is not only how many people died, you want to understand which role died. And or rather, which role the enemies are lacking. Then did the main tank die? Which means you kind of have an easy engage onto one target after the other. Well, they will most likely go into kind of a guerrilla warfare situation where everyone distributes and they try to pick off on one-on-ones. So the counter is to not allow the enemies to one-on-one. For example, if the main heal dies, they have only Zeta left, you know you will out-sustain the enemies. Oof, sorry, I was focused on the game for a second. And this is really very individual. It depends on which character you are playing, which role you are playing. For example, if you're playing Sombra, the Zenyatta died, you know you have free access to the enemy second healer. If you play Reaper and the Kree died, you know you have access to going for closer range fights. If the enemy Edge died, if the Widow died, you know you have access to longer sightlines, which were before covered by the enemy snipers, and all such things. And here we go from second to third point, not only understand which role died, but really which character died. And this is the third instance. But if you're learning Killfeed reading, make sure that you actually also understand what it means for you. Like if you notice, oh, now my diva got demacked, well, what does it actually mean? How do you change your behavior depending on this information? That was terrible play by Genji. But also was also terrible play by me because my team wasn't there. And like in this instance I did not respect the kill feed. Okay, and we will finish the first round with this explanation. In the second round I will actually apply the skill feed reading into my game. I will most likely keep it to the first level and just call out the state. And of course one additional thing is you can call out this state to your teammates, but make sure to really just call out the numbers and not what specifically died. Because it's easy to overwhelm them with this information. And it's more like only call out the 1 or 2 first kills that are actually relevant. Like if it's already a 5-on-3, you can stop calling out the additional kills. Like if Moira is the last enemy on point and you call it kill Moira, that's kind of pointless. Like try to keep communications really as low as possible and only communicate what's really, really useful. Clifford reading is useful, like, oh, it's 5-4. Let's go to point. Like they cannot stop us anymore. If it's 5-4, we can just walk on to point. We don't need to flank. We don't need to do anything fancy. We just go to point. We automatically win. Then they need to actually use ults to do stupid flanks, to go bonkers, to get us from point. And then we can react with our ults to counter their ults if they use them. If they don't use them, we don't need to use ults. Okay, so let's go for kill reading, right? Of course, now it's 5-5, which means, and we don't know the enemy team comp, so we just play with our team. See what happens, do the teleport, let our Zarya run first. Zarya goes straight to point. I think I can help the Tracer. Still 5-5, but then will be the first one dying. Yes. Sadly, when I use this wheel to communicate, my window mode bugs out. That's the lag you saw for a second. So here we just died. Fight was 5-5 all the time. You could have counted it 5-4 because the enemy Tracer used her ults while mine didn't. Okay, Tracer won, but she's suiciding. So it's 4-4. But the Baptiste is gone, so we can count it as 4-on-1 now on point. And why am I not getting healed, man? There's only one single Baptiste here. That's really unfortunate. Like, we have a healer here, right? Don't know why I was so confused. So we keep the enemies respawning, so they are now 2 or 3 enemies here. One thing I want to add to the kill feed reading is, of course, the important thing is not how many enemies are alive, but how many enemies are actually actively fighting. And how many of my teammates are actually fighting. Like now you see our heroes are AFK, which means actually this is a 2-on-2 situation here in this fight. And you can... This situation is losing, so I need to be as defensive as possible and die as slow as possible. It's 2 versus 4, I think, or 2 versus 5, I'm not entirely sure. It's a little bit hard right now because these are not clean team fights, but something in between. So we are regrouping, so we should be 5-on-5 soon. And we just die. From Kree and Genji double shot. So here some risk was allowed because the enemies are currently have the advantage, which we need to break first. But we are closer to our spawn. So here going a little bit more risky is good. And actually my teammate won 4 versus 5. Which is awesome. So now we are 4-on-1. Get out of there as soon as we can. Perfect. 5 and 4. Can I just go away? Yes, I can. I actually get healed. Awesome. I hate this mouse bug. I should stop using my emote wheel. So again, we are 5 on 2 or something, so we can just search and destroy mode here. Because I always have a teammate near, basically. They shouldn't be able to afford to go hardcore on me. Okay. Okay. So it's 1-on-1 now. Let's go. So we go for the third round. Let's try again. Maybe I try to go a little bit more with my team so Killfeed reading gets a little bit easier. Because now it's more like understanding how many players actually locally fighting, more than understanding what's happening in the Killfeed. Because even when I die, I kind of die on a flank 1 versus 2, and then my rest of the team is still 5 versus 3, so they... sorry, 4 versus 3, so they still win the rest of the fight, while I lose my corner. And for me it's now more important to say, okay, I'm 1 versus 2, so I need to play slower. But the same logic applies. Like, I'm in the disadvantage, but I have the point, which means I want to play die as slow as possible. If I'm at a disadvantage, but the enemies have the point, then I need to go even harder and try to really suicide onto one target. I go over bridge and hope for no Pharah, otherwise I will be dead. They have Pharah, but she missed, and I suicided. Okay, luckily I have no idea how I want this, honestly. So 5 and 4, so we can afford to keep them off the bridge. And by the way, if you're a very beginner and you don't know what to do with the information yet, it's okay, just call it out. And just rewatch your gameplay and try to understand what happens there. So we are keeping them off one after one. One of my teammates died. I need to call for healing, otherwise because they don't see me, but when they do it, I lose focus on my game. Oh, it's so bad. Luckily for me, Doofus is not capturing the point. This is so confusing, I don't know what's going on. So my team is apparently dead, but the enemies are kind of not going to point, and now we are back. So I guess we are in a 3-on-4 state, 4 versus 3 state right now. Man, I wanted to use Killfeed reading, but it's impossible in this game. This is so chaotic. But if you do it often enough, even in this chaotic situations, you will kind of get a feel for it. We are 5 on 2 now. Oof. They added also this thing to the Mega House pack. I just not sure when. Okay, so here for example the complete enemy team was alive, but Doofus was alone in, so it was a 4-on-1 while I was 1 versus 4. But because I have range and Doofus has not, and I have cover, I still win with this one. Okay, so this was my Killfeed reading. We won with it. I think I will redo this video so it will not be the only one. So feel free to just learn from my mistake. You see, Killfeed reading was far too hard for me, so if I would have replaced, I have saved them on Twitch bot. I will watch them and see, oh, here I kind of messed up. Here I lost track of Killfeed. Here I had the wrong decision. And rewatch your talking, rewatch your decisions. Reread where you actually missed a kill or something. And just understand, oh, here I messed up. Here I can do something a little bit better. And every time you do that, you will trigger a little bit of improvement on this topic of Killfeed reading. And then at some moment, you will be able to use a Killfeed reading to actually also do it subconsciously while you're focusing on actual gameplay, so you will use it in your ranked games if you have trained it often enough. And that's really the state you want to get in, that you train Killfeed reading so often that you do it just a second nature. You just look top right, oh yeah, this. You don't even think about it, you just notice it, and your brain registers and saves the patterns and acts on the patterns automatically without you noticing it. I think we'll leave it at this for today. There are of course a lot more things to say about Killfeed reading, but we will leave these things for the next time. So like and subscribe and comment and all good stuff to see more of this stuff. See you next time.